Good evening. Please come in.
Break out your gardening tools, because on today's Night Gallery Spotlight, we're digging into one of the stranger segments from the series, Green Fingers. This odd little story about an eccentric widow with a bizarre gift for gardening has stuck with fans for decades.
I have green fingers.
You got what?
Adapted by Rod Serling from a short story by R.C. Cook, Green Fingers delivers all the signature twists and turns Serling was famous for, and it even retained the key elements that made Cook's short story compelling to begin with. Directed by John Bottom, Green Fingers featured in Season 2, Episode 15. It originally aired on January 5th, 1972, alongside The Funeral and The Tune and Dance Cafe.
For the horticulturist amongst you, here's a dandy. A lady who plants things and then steps back and watches them grow. Roses, rhododendron, tulips, and things never before to be found coming out of the ground, just put in. The subject of this painting has green fingers.
We open with Mrs. Bowen, brought to life by the legendary Elsa Lanchester. She's tending a garden in a surprisingly tranquil opening, considering the insanity to come. Before long, we meet ruthless, cigar-chomping real estate tycoon Mike Saunders, as played by Cameron Mitchell.
What is her price?
Off the bat, it's clear Saunders is as cutthroat as they come. He wants Mrs. Bowen's land, and he isn't about to take no for an answer.
She's not about to sell out, to you or to anyone else.
This entire opening is very strong. It perfectly sets up our key players and establishes their ongoing feud. We quickly learn Saunders has already been hounding this poor woman for her property via his assistant Ernie. Interestingly, Ernie's a lot more sympathetic to Mrs. Bowen. He's been down this road before with her, so he already knows she isn't budging.
Mr. Saunders, I went in there with your offer. She gave me a cup of tea, a wafer, and we talked gardening for an hour and a half.
In any case, Saunders has had enough, and now he's taken matters into his own sweaty, tobacco-stained hands.
I have already offered you 5 times what this museum piece is worth. Now you take it, or you leave it.
Throughout this exchange, the contrast between these two is stark. On one side, we have Saunders, practically holding himself back from dragging Mrs. Bowen off the property himself. And on the other side, we have Mrs. Bowen, who remains pleasant and hospitable, at least for as long as she can, considering this guy wants to bulldoze everything she ever loved into oblivion.
Gonna be assembly plants on either side, and we're gonna have 6 smokestacks blotting out the sun.
Both Mitchell and Lanchester were great here. Aside from their tense dialogue, even their body language spoke volumes. You could sense the animosity between these two just growing by the second.
Lady, did you hear what I said?
Clearly.
Real estate deals aside, the real hook here is Mrs. Bowen isn't an ordinary old woman. She has what's known as green fingers, and somehow everything she plants grows.
Nearly 4 foot high. I planted it nearly a month ago, and do you know what it is? It's a piece of kindling.
Obviously, Saunders couldn't care less about Mrs. Bowen's botanical superpowers, and soon enough their conflict escalates.
Why can't you take my best offer and buy yourself another place, build yourself another cottage, and plant yourself another damn garden?
What I like most about this confrontation is that as Saunders grew increasingly aggressive, Mrs. Bowen stood her ground.
This you do not get.
Now, since we know Mrs. Bowen has a strange ability to grow anything, I found myself wondering how that was going to factor into this showdown. It's such an offbeat ability, but it gave the story an unpredictable edge.
You looking for me?
Shortly after his failed attempt to pressure Mrs. Bowen out of her home, Saunders takes things to the next level. He hires a goon named Crowley, as played by George Kemis, to do whatever's necessary to get Mrs. Bowen off her property.
You got it. Breakfast time tomorrow.
With that, we jump ahead as police arrive the next day. Apparently, there's been an attack, and Mrs. Bowen has had one of her fingers chopped off with an axe. A grisly warning intended to send her a message. On this point, I wanted to mention, I like that we don't actually witness the violent attack on the old woman. Granted, the rule in storytelling is typically show, don't tell. But in this case, I think leaving the attack up to our imagination and simply showing us the bloody aftermath was all the more unsettling.
My dear God.
Curiously, when the police find the injured and bleeding Mrs. Bowen, she's tending a garden, or more specifically, she's planting something.
I have green fingers, you know, Sheriff. Everything I plant grows.
As the tale wraps up, we learn that Saunders' hired goon apparently died in a car crash while making his getaway. And sadly, Mrs. Bowen succumbs to the loss of blood and the shock to her body. So, happy ending for our monstrous land developer, right? Of course not. This is Night Gallery. We rarely get happy endings for anyone on this show. When we next catch up with Saunders, he's gloating over his victory.
Yeah, that's a word you want to use. I'm gloating.
Disgusted by his boss's ghoulish behavior, Ernie abandons Saunders. Soon after, we see something creeping out of the soil.
Ernie, don't go!
Saunders screams for his assistant to come back, but Ernie is long gone. And when Saunders turns back around, all he finds is an empty hole. At this point, most horror fans already probably know where this is going. That's right, in classic Night Gallery fashion, Mrs. Bowen regrew herself from her own severed finger.
Everything I plant grows. Even me.
A wacky but disturbing reveal to say the least. From there, Saunders wanders outside, and we get a moment which threw me off on my first viewing. Saunders suddenly breaks the fourth wall, Deadpool style, and begins babbling like a maniac directly to us.
Do you know what grows from old lady's fingers?
I imagine this probably spooked viewers at the time. Again, on my first watch, this was jarring, but on a rewatch, it actually plays much better. It's almost as if the story ruptures reality itself, just as Saunders' grip on reality snaps, which is fitting for a tale where nature itself literally bursts through all boundaries. Although I will say, this oddball twist did leave me wondering, will this plant zombie Mrs. Bowen simply go on forever in her cottage, eternally tending her garden? Sure, why the hell not? Aside from this quirky ending, there's plenty of reasons Green Fingers has remained one of the more beloved segments in Night Gallery. First off, we have Elsa Lanchester, who's excellent here and delivers a subtle yet off-kilter performance. She's down to earth and believable, especially early on, but by the time we reach zombie plant woman territory, she goes all out. Lanchester has had many roles over the years, appearing in tons of films, but she's best known for her role in the 1935 classic
The Bride of Frankenstein.
Another aspect of this adaptation I liked was that Serling veered from the source material and offered up some clever poetic justice. Ultimately, Mrs. Bowen does save her land from being bulldozed, albeit in an eerie, almost Twilight Zone style twist. On that note, this entire real estate angle, along with the character of Saunders, was wisely added by Serling. And I will say, none of this feels like padding for the plot. Instead, these additions actually deepen the story by bringing in themes such as the displacement of people and nature for profit. Serling's conclusion also took a slightly different path from R.C. Cook's short story, which, let's just say, closed on a far more grisly note.
Look, lady, I don't care you plant oil cans and upcome gas stations, but I am committed to an industrial complex here.
And now let's talk about the real snake in this garden, Saunders, as played by character actor Cameron Mitchell. Saunders is easily one of the stronger antagonists in Night Gallery. He's a cold, calculating menace throughout, and you can't wait to see him get his comeuppance.
You sound unhappy, Ernie. An old woman is dead.
Even when Saunders causes death in the pursuit of getting what he wants, he barely has any remorse. You'll recall, we've seen Serling punish these types of individuals in his stories before, sometimes even with the touch of madness. But this is the first time I can recall an antagonist unraveling so much they broke the fourth wall. Speaking of Cameron Mitchell, Night Gallery fans may recognize him from the Season 3 segment, Finnegan's Flight. He also had quite the career, appearing in more than 300 films and TV shows. But I'm mostly familiar with him for schlockier movies such as Space Mutiny and Deadly Prey. Basically the types of stuff you'd see on Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst.
Friend or enemy?
I'm a friend.
You're a liar.
In terms of trivia, according to Rod Serling's Night Gallery and After Hours tour, the team that worked on this segment did want to show more overgrown greenery throughout. However, budget restraints killed that idea. Luckily, this is a small story, and I think it works anyway, despite the limited budget.
Holy old Jesus!
Another thing I wanted to mention was Greenfingers was giving me some Stephen King vibes. First off, the idea of a weird plant woman reminded me of Stephen King's Creepshow segment, The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill. In that story, the lead, as played by King himself, literally became overtaken by a strange plant infestation. Also, Saunders' hair turning white is a trope King used in his work as well, most famously when we see Henry Bowers' hair turned white after his nightmarish encounter with it. File that scene under creepy movie moments that freaked me out as a kid. Lastly, I wanted to give a special mention to Michael Bell, who plays Saunders' assistant Ernie. He doesn't get much screen time here, but he does a solid job adding some heart into this otherwise grim scenario. However, the main reason I wanted to highlight Bell is because he's voice acting royalty. Animation fans will likely know him from decades of work in tons of animated series. I probably first heard him as Grouchy Smurf.
I hate Gargamel.
Bell's voice work can also be heard in Scooby-Doo, G.I. Joe, Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Transformers, Voltron, Batman. You get the point. He's basically a one-man Saturday morning celebration.
I hate celebration.
And you can bet that Bell also showed up in Star Trek. No way I'm skipping that trivia. All things considered, it's clear why Greenfingers is another one of the highlights of the series. This Mother Nature revenge fantasy is strange, creepy, and memorable as hell. And as for that wacky fourth wall break, well, I guess seeing a zombie plant woman would shatter anyone's world. I'd rate Greenfingers 4 out of 5 freshly severed fingers. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. If you've seen Greenfingers, then go ahead and let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Until next time, stay safe, stay weird, and stay the heck out of Mrs. Bowen's garden. Later.